on behalf of IAA, and thank you very much, Madison team, Sam, for having us over and sparing precious Friday afternoon time, right? Everybody wants to kind of party over the weekend, but we'll take the next 60 minutes to walk you through what IAA Voice of Change is really all about. Megha and I have been passionately driving this particular initiative and movement for several years as part of the IAA team, and over the years we've of course made some kind of progress. The journey's been fantastic. So I'll very quickly in the next few minutes both of us will explain to you what this journey has actually been and why we are here today. And before I start, I'd like to introduce our knowledge partners to you. They're very knowledgeable, so you can grill them in their session. That's Geetanjali and that's Kavita. They are our UNICEF partners, and they've come all the way from Delhi to just be with you and to walk you through some of the pieces that they will talk about. Yeah, so Megha, you want to tell us how this journey started?
Sure. I mean, again, thank you so much, Sam and Team Madison, for doing this, and thank you all for being here, attentively listening. And the setting is such that you don't have a choice but to listen. So this journey started about 4 years ago when we, decided to take this initiative forward. What we call as sorry, being late. So called the IAA Voice of Change, and the whole objective broadly was that we are an industry which has the power to make a difference, to make an impact, and if we are in a position of power, we should be doing the right things. And hence came in UNICEF, and we partnered with them to do a research which happened about 4 years ago in 2019. We took about 1,000 ads across across television and digital platform in 5 languages, and we evaluated how is gender represented in all of these creatives. And the highlights of the findings Geetanjali will share with you, and unfortunately the findings were not pretty. And that is what brought about us that we need to go and talk about this with the people who are actually making the decisions when the content is being created. So we started with a summit, which happened, IAA Voice of Change Summit, and then we said, okay, besides the summit, we need to go and have these interventions where we talk to people who are actually making these decisions when they're sitting and putting a storyboard together, when they're thinking of an idea, when they're casting people. How can you all collectively make a difference when you're creating content? Now that content will be 30 seconds to 3 hours, so it's not about just advertising, it's about movies, about web series, it's about digital content as well, which is what our recent summit was all about in Delhi with Google. So that's been the journey so far, and if you can, Geena, share what do we intend to achieve out of this session?
Yes, so like we researched advertising, we researched TV content. The last summit that happened just this Monday in the Google office was about digital content. What we really are saying is that today across demographics, across geographies, people are consuming content, right? No matter which screen, which platform, which pipe, all of that, we're just consuming a whole lot of content. At the end of the day, all the content that we are seeing is subconsciously shaping the way we think, shaping our lives, shaping our beliefs, our thoughts, our values. It also shapes the way we see the world, how we see our roles in the world. So in a way, it is really shaping the social narrative. And if we don't take cognizance of the fact of how we are consciously portraying gender in our pieces of communication, we are not going to make that ultimate desire of wanting enduring change in society as a whole. So the whole idea is to be very cognizant of the fact that in any piece of communication that I'm making now, whether it's a 5-seconder on social media or whether it's a 30-minute web series, it's all about being very sensitized and aware of the fact that there is a gender lens that I need to apply to all the communication that I'm putting out there, which is in a way equitable, positive, inclusive, right? we need to start breaking some of those stereotypes. We need to start bashing some of those biases, some of those inequalities. And you know, you are seeing Megha and me here, but we are not here, we are not doing the Nari Shakti thing. You know, we are not doing the male bashing either. We love men, trust me, we do. And we just want to be very equitable in the way we portray gender. And that is why we are here to talk to the actual karta dhartas of that content, right? All of you here are actually creating, consuming, putting it out there, talking to clients, producing, casting, writing, designing. If you start creating a sensitized version of gender in your own heads, and of course push back to clients as well, must I say that, because sometimes it all starts with the brief, and we have to look at, you know, how the brief is going to work as well. But if we just apply that gender lens, we will perhaps move that needle inch by inch by inch going forward. And Megha spoke about the research that we did 4 years ago, and thanks to UNICEF again, we are doing a midline study as well. So Geena Davis Institute has done the baseline and now doing the midline for us. So hopefully when we come back here next time, we'll have good news to say that, "Arey, itna sa to move hua." The needles move that much. But boon boon se bharta hai sagar. That's the only Hindi I know. But it really is about just being very sensitized. Sorry.
No, just to get now maybe Geetanjali on, but just to wrap up to say that really thankful for all the people who are going to be speaking in the panel from Madison, who are actually and Sam being there is a testament of the fact that it starts from the top, right? And the senior leadership being here, supporting us, wanting to make that change, and every voice being counted is most important. So use this opportunity to question, to ask, and even comment and suggest some of the ways we can. In all the sessions we've had so far, and we've done a few across Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, across multiple agencies like Havas, Leoganet, Famous, FCB, RK Swami, and we've done across with everyone. And for us, Neena and I, we've taken away so much learning out of that. Because every session we take some ideas away, then we cross-pollinate to the next session, like we were talking, Sudarshan, we were discussing some ideas. These were all part of the conversations we've had in the past. So I think use this opportunity more like a learning and make it a two-way interaction instead of just it being a one-way street where somebody speaks, you listen, you go back and do exactly what you should not be doing. So it'd be nice to be engaged, question, ask, and hopefully make it a meaningful session for everybody. So with that, we'll now request Geetanjali to come and set the context before we have the panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I'm just standing here and going through this, but thank you so much for enabling this session, and thank you everyone for being here today. We've of course had this journey with the International Advertising Association, like Megha and Neena already gave all of you a backdrop. But I'm going to just step back a little bit into our childhoods, and that's how, I've spent 21 years with UNICEF, and I've traveled across states. I've worked in India, and I've traveled across states in India, and I've really gone also and seen during emergencies. And one of the things that really stuck with me was this whole piece on gender socialization. How are we socialized to gender? And what I mean by that is that, when you're born, it starts, maybe we can move on to the next slide, because I just reference some slides, I don't really need them, but just to say that, when a child is born, even then, for a mother, to want to have a boy, and we all know that still stays, it stays. How is that? When a child then is born, the pinks and the blues and so many sort of vulnerabilities arise for girls when they are being gender socialized. So that socialization, as you can see, it does begin at birth, it intensifies as the child is growing. And this is not to say that, the gender socialization is only happening with boys. It's also for girls and women. because it's happening together. That everybody is feeling that there is a need maybe for a son preference, or when you're talking about a sex-selective abortion, I visited a village in Maharashtra when a man used to go on a two-wheeler back then with a little ultrasound machine to check. And who was asking for that ultrasound machine? It was a woman, right? So it's not that, so just to say that, then that there's barriers to education, there's unequal burdens, etc. So obviously those, if I can say, gender socialization agents create multiple levels of vulnerabilities for girls and women. What are those vulnerabilities? Getting them married early. Many times, doesn't matter if the girl doesn't study, she can stay back home and look after the younger brother, sisters. Let the brother go and study so he can earn. So maybe in our kind of lives, we don't see this very often, and it's changed, and it is changing. A lot has changed. So I would always like to look at the glass half full. But just to say that backdrop, we all need to keep in mind about gender socialization, right? Now, there are some things that actually are the agents of this gender socializing. How did we all start thinking? How did people start thinking that boys have to have blue rooms and girls have to have pink, or boys are better for a family to move on? Of course, girls are also good, but ek ladka hona chahiye. There are agents of, which catalyze socialization. Like, how does it happen? It happens through family, generations, it happens through our community, it happens through the people we live with, it happens through our teachers, through our peers, through the books we read, and in a large measure, it also happens through media and advertising, right? So what we understand and what we realize is that media and advertising also are huge influencers, many times in a very, very positive way. And I was giving the example last week. So we were working in MP and in a place, and we had gone for a visit to a village, and there was this woman over there, and that's when we started realizing what an important critical role media and advertising play. All of you here, what a huge role you all play, because this sort of communication medium challenges stereotypes, but it could also reinforce them, right? It's both ways. So just to give you an example of challenging stereotypes, when there was a young girl we met, and we had actually gone on, the whole Swachh Bharat, menstrual hygiene kind of visit, and one of the girls actually stood there and said, we were talking about how it works for you, and then she said, पता नहीं था कि हमने ऐड देखा, हमने देखा टीवी पे कि वो भाग भी रही है, खेल भी रही है, पर उसने पैड पहना है. For her to think like that. Now, she said, before I saw this, I didn't feel this. She said, when I saw it, I went and told my elder sister went and told my mother got excited, and then it travels. So it's a huge challenging force that you have on stereotypes. At the same time, sometimes it also reinforces, right? And that you'll see in some of the findings that I will just share from the study, where we realize that yet there is a lot still to be done, and I think everybody is moving towards that, but that we'll see through the results of it. And that's when we figured that, there are people who are, like, for example, I was just telling you the reinforcing of stereotypes. A woman that we met in the same village actually shared with us that, we were talking about who influences me. ये मेरा favorite actor है, ये favorite actress है, और जो सबसे अच्छी चीज़ मुझे लगती है टीवी पे, वो जब आके एक्टर बताता है कि हमें बाथरूम में या किचन में ऐसे करना चाहिए, क्या हमको इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए. So they feel very happy about being in that space, but they don't know what is outside of that space and how it could also improve or open up their lives in a meaningful way. So we just move forward from here. So we obviously partnered with the Geena Davis Institute. UNICEF globally has a partnership with them. We partnered with the International Advertising Association. Everybody came together, number of stakeholders, and then with IAA really taking the lead on, getting the sample, getting the advertisements, etc. Then Geena Davis analyzed it. So I'm just, I'm not going to spend much time on each and every slide because we should have more of a discussion. But really, crux of it was that the female characters are being shown. So the C. Jane tests, as they call it, girls and women are definitely shown in all ads as much as men are shown, almost the same amount, yeah? It's not less so they're not being seen or something like that. The issue starts with where are they being seen, what are they doing, how are they looking, is that stereotypical? And that's what was, if you look at it here, clearly banking, finance, home decor, media, the more sort of roles were very over-presented in fashion, corporate, and those kind of roles. Yeah, so I think beauty, etc. Also, there was some, some facets of appearance which came through quite significantly. That why do they have to look in a certain way, always looking, better than I don't know what average is also, but generally, it was more in terms of looking in a certain way, always very pleasing or so-called. I don't know what pleasing also is, because pleasing is different to different people, really, I think. But anyway, so really then it came down to there's a gender trope, they get fixed there, and then there were so many discussions. I think Megha and Neena have really taken Voice of Change to a level. Every panel and every discussion we have, we keep seeing people saying, that women are always seen in the bedroom, kitchen, cleaning, toilets mostly, like or whatever, that's the role they have. That's what they're being shown as, and can we just change that? And I do think it's changing. Let's be very honest about it. I think if we see the Thar ad, or if we see, there are many different ads which are coming out now, or even in movies, etc., where women are being portrayed differently, and equally, I would say. So, just moving on, I think these are just facets of the nuances we figured, right? Leadership roles, earning, shown as taking decisions for the family. In an insurance ad, typically it's the man deciding that, how should I do this? Is she thinking about the future or not? Why wouldn't she be thinking about it equally as well? And so just to also say that, the other day I was also listening to advertising is also a reflection of what's actually happening, right? So you also want to talk that same language, right? But at the same time, when you're talking that same language, I think also somebody said the other day, let's do the middle path, right? You do. As advertisers, I'm sure you are working with brands. Brands are thinking of what's the pulse. The pulse is maybe stereotypical in certain ways, so you have to also respond there. But I think there we can shift and make those needles move a little bit, just a little bit, so that things start appearing different to them, who are receiving content. So yeah, I think caretaking. So traditionally, typically, caretaking, domestic, fashion, looking in a certain way is all women. And then men are the decision makers, bigger roles, leadership, futuristic, and so on. Yeah, so maybe we can move on from here. So I think that's the reason for actually highlighting some of these. And, again, if we look at this living room setting, there was a big discussion around it. That, even though men are kind of coming in and speaking about about food and interacting with their partners and others in adverts, it's mostly the women who are shown as cooking and everything. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think that's something that was very stark, right? So maybe this presentation can be shared with all of you, but I wanted to just mention 5 kind of things that came through to us post these findings, where we worked very closely with IAA, where IAA took the lead in actually launching Voice of Change as a campaign across the country. And Megha already mentioned so many cities they went to and spoke to advertisers and seeing how they can make that little difference. And I think for us, a big takeaway from that was, the first one is, these findings showed us, reinforced what we somehow already knew. And now I'm going to talk about some 5 facets that we want to work on with IAA as their knowledge partner going forward. The first one is to go deeper, right? Deeper, I mean, y'all are content creators, y'all are, creative people. But there are also language creative people in very small cities, places in India. they look towards your advertising. And I'm also speaking about people that I've met as content creators in, say, a Bareilly, or and they're doing a lot of work in their own little communities and making content that people really, really value. So they look up to the content which is out there, then they kind of create their own content. And so how do we influence those people? How do we actually work with them and also see how we can get your insights and opinions and ideas and then influence those content creators who don't have so much access? The second thing was, of course, the whole, the writing and cast, and these are just some very broad guidelines. UNICEF did not create these guidelines. These have been co-created, shared by Geena Davis, looked at by IAA, UNICEF's technical teams also had a glance at these to say, these are just very outline suggestions, I would say. So obviously the second thing is to really look at some sort of our own created guidelines. There are no fixed rules in this area. I think you all are creative people, so you can decide best how you want to approach it. The third piece was about, when you are obviously doing what you're doing, how do we also get the voices of the younger people? Because really the opinions, the stereotypes, those thought processes don't start when we're 30 or 25. They are with us when we're 6. So a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old who's actually looking at the ads, which sometimes they're not meant to be looking at, they are forming their opinions then. And that's why UNICEF is here, because we know that opinions and thoughts begin much earlier in life. And then finally, just to say that, I think that equity lens also in our own lives. And I, feel that way as well, because it's not something that happens, I was sharing with somebody in our own families as well. I was sharing recently with somebody that somebody in my family told me, when I was young, I used to love to run. And my cousin and I are the same age, he's boy, and we're very, very close. And somebody much elder in the family said, it's great. And so obviously the ads of a new Gola shoes or something was on TV, I still remember. And he said, I want those, I want to run. And I said, I want those too, and I want to run. And somebody in the family said to us, we were saying, let him do it first. Let's get them for him. Because let's see how he feels in it, and then we can figure. So obviously, and that ad was obviously with boys running, making it. Now things are different. But, so I'm saying the needle keeps moving and shifting, but I think we just shouldn't let that stop. I mean, the idea of the conversation is that it's not like the needle hasn't moved at all, it has, but let's not make the needle stop, let's just let it keep moving. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Akanksha, and thank you so much, Geetanjali. Thank you everyone that's present here, and special thanks to Sam for being here. As we all are aware, we'll be having a small panel discussion on this very topic that they just shared insights with us about. And to start with, we have Kosal as a moderator. Kosal, say hi.
Hello.
Yes, a brief introduction since Kosal's team is usually here for those who are joining us from external parties. Kosal is a media and creative expert, and he is known for his content, branding and storytelling expertise. Kosal is an ex-Mican, by the way, and he has over 15 plus years of experience in this domain now. He's previously worked with Star India at PhD and currently heads our in-house creative team Loop. So give a round of applause to Kosal. Yes, our next panel member is Jolene. She has been working in the industry for over 19 plus years. Jolene, come say hi. She brings her expertise in media strategy, client servicing, and campaign management with a strong background in helping brands like Marico, Jyoti Labs, Bajaj Electricals, Viacom team, Tata Consumer Products, L'Oreal, amongst others. There are more to the list, but these are the notable ones. Next on the panel we have Pooja, Prabhu, our very own creative maverick. She has been in the industry for 15 plus years and currently heads our client servicing team at West and South region. Also has worked with brands like Snapchat, Hyundai, Nykaa, and Tanishq. So that's a huge one. We have Abhiruchi Chan joining us specially for this discussion today. And I'll speak a little more detail for Abhiruchi. So Abhiruchi has won the upcoming Lyricist of the Year award at the Abhiruchi Music Awards for a song Buddha Saman from Dr. and Sons. So that's a huge one. And she's also worked for films like NH10, October, Done for Square Foot, and there is a long list. Her screenwriting work includes contributions to blockbuster films like Sanju and Gangubai Katrawadi, as well as serving as the lead writer for Hotstar series Out of Love. Abhiruchi has also ventured into directing with a debut film Aadar, which is streaming on Hotstar. You guys can watch. And her second short film Namak, featuring Divya Datta and Vijay Maurya, premiering at the Chicago International Film Festival. Recently, she completed writing a romantic novel drama for a prominent production house featuring celebrated industry leads. Currently, Abhiruchi is immersed in the pre-production of the next feature film, which she has written and will also direct, showcasing her versatile talents across the creative spectrum. So that's notable. Our final panelist is Sudarshan. Can you come here? He brings over 22 years of rich experience in advertising and marketing, and he's worked with renowned names like Google, McKinsey, SME Interface, and Expo. Currently consulting for mid-sized advertising agencies with pan-India presence, a travel company, and an international single malt brand entering the Indian market. He specializes in brand identity, market strategy, and developing IPs in the music and content space. Sudarshan has led campaigns for a diverse set of clients across sectors such as automobile, FMCG, and BFSI. He was instrumental in the globally recognized Punishing Signal campaign for Mumbai Traffic Police, awarded at the D&AD show. Known for his strategic acumen and client-centric approach, Sudarshan is a very key voice on key topics on media, representation, and industry leadership. I now pass on the forum to Kosal to take a lead on this.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Who wants to shift the camera?
Yes, I will do that.
Mic.
Friday afternoon. Okay. It was afternoon when we started. Okay, so I don't want to make it boring. We'll try to create some controversies. So don't take everything I say at face value. I'm not a bad person, maybe. But we'll just try to get multiple perspectives in. You know the topic. We have 4 people here. We want opinions. And half an hour, 45 minutes is what we'll talk. Please feel free to interrupt, cut, yawn. Okay? Chalo, I'll just start off with a couple of ads, okay? And then we'll... You've probably seen most of it.
आइए क्या चाहिए जी वो एक प्रेशर कुकर चाहिए प्रेशर कुकर क्यों नहीं आप अपनी बीवी से कितना प्यार करते हैं ये तो बताइए क्या मतलब है आपका मतलब है मान लीजिए आप अपनी बीवी को सिर्फ थोड़ा सा चाहते हैं तो भी चलेगा प्रेशर कुकर थोड़ा ज्यादा लगा दीजिए ना तो थोड़ा अच्छा प्रेशर कुकर लेके देंगे आप अगर अपनी जान से भी ज्यादा प्यारी है उनकी जान तो फिर ये 100% सुरक्षित प्रेस्टीज लेके देंगे श्रीमान लेकिन प्रेस्टीज ही क्यों क्योंकि सिर्फ इसी में है अनोखा गास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम जिससे जरा भी खतरा नहीं रहता ये देखिए ये इस तरह काम करता है अगर कुछ दाने में पेट में फंस जाए तो साधारण प्रेशर कुकर में जरूरत से ज्यादा प्रेशर जमा होने से खतरा पैदा हो सकता है लेकिन नए प्रेस्टीज में सेफ्टी बेल्ट कैसा भी लगा हो अनोखे गास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम की वजह से आप सुरक्षित रूप से बाहर निकल जाती है जी तो प्रेस्टीज ही दीजिए जो बीवी से सचमुच करते प्यार वो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करें इनकार
Okay. Now, how do we go back? Akanksha.
One second, I just handed it to
Where is the?
Oh,
okay, sorry, he's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
play the 75 years. Yeah.
बोलो चावल मत बनाना तेरे नानी के बर्थडे के लिए उल्टी वाली बिरयानी बनाई है
बाबा चावल मत बनाना नानी के बर्थडे के लिए
चाचू बड़ी दादी की बर्थडे के लिए मैंने क्या बनाया बताओ उनकी वाली बिरयानी
पिछले 75 सालों से घर घर में प्यार प्रेस्टीज में ही तो पक रहा है जो अपनों से करे प्यार वो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करे इनकार
ओके सो प्रेस्टीज सेट जो बीवी से करे प्यार वो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करे इनकार टू जो अपनों से करे प्यार तो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करे इनकार राइट सो दे हैव फिगर्ड इट आउट हैव वी फिगर्ड आउट we'll try and figure it out now so one question to all the panelists 2 sentences when I say stereotypes what is the first thing that comes to your mind
Male versus female.
male versus female
Seeing what you've been seeing for years now, and the cliche take on things how they are, and not really changing them.
okay
textbook definition of a certain personality
sorry are we audible or are we just talking to each other
it's a typical textbook definition
No, wait, I'll go switch it on.
text
No,
textbook
Textbook.
definition doesn't
okay
that's okay
We need to hear you.
oh yeah I said it's a typical textbook definition doesn't go beyond that
It's a box that we've created, and we seem to be in that box itself. So, a defined, categorizing.
but why do we need stereotypes do they serve any purpose no, you can take it
Yeah, I think, to be honest, somewhere we've seen it's actually working because a lot of people follow what is seen, and that's where what you see is what you follow, and what people want you to believe is what you follow. So I think that's the core reason for stereotyping.
oh fair anyone else reason for stereotypes any other opinion
there was a reason at some point of time to have stereotypes defined so that brands could align their communication which people will resonate with. But there was an error.
but it no longer exists
Because the needle has moved and moved a lot. And there's another way of looking at EOTGs now.
so can you give a couple of examples or one example of a brand who's done a good job in representation in bringing gender neutrality at the fore
Share the Load is one of the best campaigns that changed the narrative, When it was a washing machine, why it was a job of a girl, the way that was. So it was a nicer, way stronger representation without getting into the caste and the role that was there.
You've all seen Share the Load campaign? Can someone tell us the script? For the others who have not seen the campaign.
Has anyone not seen it?
Everyone's seen it? Acha, theek hai, jane do. Okay, any other good example?
I think the ad that struck me was the Microsoft ad where people were questioned, the kids were questioned, do you know any scientists? They all were giving names of a male scientist, which is like Benjamin Franklin, etc.
So they started a campaign, Make What's Next. And it was social experiment driven advertisement. And what they said was, they went to schools and started asking about innovators. And all kids started giving out names, Thomas Alva Edison. Sadly or luckily, they were exposed to the names that were male dominated in the scientist community. And next question was, any female innovators? And everyone said that, well, it's a difficult question. And the reason was the learnings that were there in the textbook. It wasn't there.
They had no idea about the
no
female
idea.
scientists being, So that was a great messaging where they, towards the conclusion of the advertisement, they showcase all the female scientists who have done commendable job, and then how we should know and talk about it. Was the
As a matter of fact, they started a drive wherein they created a unit within Microsoft for women innovators to come with their innovations and get it patented as well. And it's so, the bug wasn't stopping with the communication, they had the activity going along. And they supported with advices, funding and everything to help them patent their ideas.
Yeah, how do we know if it's worked? So can I do a...
I tried gathering some data info on that, and well, there are a lot of case studies on their website, but it's a good question. There's no published report, so to say, as of now that I came across.
I have a question on the Prestige ad, in fact. How many of us here have seen the second ad?
Good question.
I had it, by the way, and I love the first ad, and I'm happy to do a conversation on it. You said you'll make some fire in the room.
Please.
I don't see what's wrong in that ad. It's such a beautiful ad. It stayed in my mind, and I love Prestige as a brand. I prefer the first ad, so I'm happy to hear whatever others have to say about such an ad. So what if we have it in the kitchen? So what if we are cooking? Just because Sanjeev Kapoor is a man and a chef, he's still a man and a chef. And what is reflected in ads is what we are. The Microsoft couldn't have made that if there were no women scientists. So I do agree that women scientists are not spoken about, but that doesn't mean that if they were not there, then what? You would have still said what we are seeing in the room today.
Of the ad.
Right?
People do not, they're not talking about.
But Pooja, even before this, such scientists would have ever happened. There are some categories, for example, the woman is the first pilot, for example. So what would you say in such a situation? You would just recommend that you should be fair to people who want to do something, but that does not mean that it's a stereotype. Just because you don't have women pilots or lesser women pilots. You reward women pilots, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with having a stereotype that pilots are more men, which is a fact. So
That's
I
an
don't
interesting
understand.
take. I'll just let's थोड़ा सा rewind करते हैं.
हाँ जरूर सर.
Same ad. I'll ask you to pause when I want you to. Okay. Play. Just observe. Play. Stop.
Deep dive.
Stop.
Yeah.
You saw what happened subliminally.
Yes.
Okay. They were in a shop. Wasn't it? As in, it's a script. Why couldn't a woman ask for a cooker, button? Why she had to fusfus out there? And then the question that comes, जो बीवी से करे करो, जरूरत नहीं था. Why she couldn't ask?
जरूरत नहीं था, but this is again.
That's the subliminal
advertising
engineering that happens. Wiring that happens. It starts there.
Yeah, it starts there, but you started with an interesting piece on advertising stereotypes don't exist. This is because the TG would have been like that. It's a mass TG. Today also we do it, by the way. I don't understand why you said no. But today also we understand that there is a woman in a house and there's a man, and certain families would want this. This is a mass TVC. The masses of India are very much like this.
I agree.
I mean, till today when there is a brand, for example, and we work for a fertility clinic, okay, as a category, it's usually the man who will do the talking. It is true. It is not about, we are making that stereotype, but that doesn't say that women don't. And that doesn't stop women from doing it.
If you kind of show the same ad or same type of ads, for example, every masala ad today has a woman in the kitchen. Every appliance ad is showing a woman.
Some masalas have Sanjeev Kapoor in the kitchen.
It's just one. So the point is, there is no, and the point is, Anita, is that today these same ads are shown in the smaller markets as well. And that's where, this stereotyping starts. And it starts, and you're truly right, it starts
it's
from
a reflection of what it is, right? If you show the girl saying it somewhere you'll have to present the girl in a different way, and they may not relate to it. The masses may not relate to it.
It's not about having her or, she could be in this same state, same ad, but it's about the language that you speak. It's about portraying how, it's the body language, it's the words that you use.
I think it's also about not breaking the stereotype, but evolving the stereotype.
And
For example, the Share the Load campaign, we just spoke about that. Now, breaking the stereotype could have been that, it's not a woman's job to do the laundry. Let man take charge of it. When we say evolving the stereotype, we are not saying it's only a woman's job. or it's only a man's job. What we are trying to say is share the load, which means it's the onus is on both of them to run the house.
It's a
So
machine.
I'm saying
I
that's how
love
you-
the campaign myself,
Yeah.
no problem. But
So
that's
I think-
again something that's happening in homes already.
Yeah, and-
In upmarket home, in upscale metros, etc. It's happening. I don't know how much it's happening.
But that's happening because I think that's happening because there's been a conversation around
Yes.
it for years. And if we collectively don't take, I mean, honestly, I hear you when you're saying that it's a reflection of society and our ads have to be a reflection. Or I think the important thing is that it has to be both ways. Because there are girls in a Meerut also who are have very high aspirations. But when they look at communication in the public domain, it is very regressive in some ways. If they see something like this, it's reiterated to them culturally. And let me also just share, and I agree with you, that as you rightly said, men are very, very important partners in this conversation. So it's never to say that cooking should be shown by men and women should be out there working. No, it's great to cook for your family. Why not? A man or a woman. But I'm just saying that a reflection, if we point this out just as a reflection, it's a bit...
See, the simple
Also, this
point
entire
is
prestige thing, sorry, but just like I'm just talking about the ad as a writer, like or the way it's been executed, like the man is the one, like he's rightly said, he's the one who says, show me the pressure cooker, and he says, "Apni biwi se pyar nahi karte," and the bechari biwi is like her, she's devastated, like there's nothing left in her world because the man doesn't love me. She's questioning her existence, maybe. That has to change. She's so not empowered, down in the dumps. That can't go on, is what I think.
So,
no, as an agency representative, a small body of writers, planners, there's a huge machinery that goes on, right? Isn't it our little bit of responsibility where we shift the narrative, little bit? It's about having 2 scripts at a time. That's the only thing.
I just wanted to create that fight.
no, don't worry. So,
I still love the ad.
Beautifully done.
I love it.
but Vanita, in fact, I want to answer one more question. This is something I am personally very, this one. We've probably seen this ad so much because of the frequency at which this ad is. The other ad probably said, पैसे नहीं है, 1K frequency पे चलाओ.
ये अच्छा नहीं क्या होगा creative track में, ऐसा भी हो सकता है. And मुझे तो पसंद है, that way others may have liked it. So
I consider this ad as a huge nostalgia.
Yeah.
All people love it if no one is watching it.
Like what do you focus on? What do you really go so deep into? These insights are more in the creative boardroom. How much does the consumer notice this part and which consumer notices
So
it?
for example, this
That's
entire...
If you do
I'm just saying what part
PI, people do point out.
Yeah,
This entire menstrual ad which Akshay Kumar has done on cinema.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge conversation where actually a man acknowledges what a woman is actually going through, and you are talking to the masses itself. It's only how you're representing, it's the language that you're talking of, you're that one cigarette versus buying a 20 rupee sanitary pad. It's a huge difference. That's where it actually starts having we start having those conversations. Otherwise, every time you would see a same whisper or a comfort or
And
whatever.
the woman is objectified in the ads.
Absolutely.
Any examples of bad ads? Latest, don't want to
Let's not
name
name the brands
These
and
sort of ads that...
no, let's not name the brands and all, but imagine the kind of communication that comes out of the Women's Day or a Mother's Day, and you're like,
Sometimes
why?
a poster type.
What are we trying to achieve over here?
No, but let's name brands.
Sudarshan and I were talking about the Mother's Day, the barrage of ads that come out, and quite sadly, most of the times we glorify this entire maa ka tyag, maa matlab good food, maa matlab great food, maa working tirelessly in the kitchen, sare ghar ko sambhalti. I think that is where the shift needs to happen. So 2-3 years ago, I just wrote something and I put it on YouTube where I said that is baar ek cup chai apne liye banana. Because we have glorified this entire being a mother so much that somewhere we forget that she's also a human being, and we need to, somewhere I do feel like Rahi rightly said, there are so many ads talking about the same thing over and over again, reiterating the fact that you're a mother, you have to be in the kitchen, you have to let go of your dreams and your aspirations, which I think needs a fresh take.
And coming to that, I think that's very important where you're not just focusing on days, and it's important that the focus has to be equal. equal not only in representation but also in how you kind of put things forward. It has to be consistent. Most brands come up with one ad, you know, throughout the year and trying to show that you are progressive, but that's not where it, if you are progressive, it has to show consistently and not, you know, just as those
Well, it all starts with an intent actually. So we do not, what I feel is, do not find days to celebrate women or gender neutrality as per convenience. The intent has to be overall. It has to be every time. How can we, what does exactly what I feel is, we have, when we are talking about neutrality, it has to go through communications across all, for all people, for everyone. So, for example, you're talking about the banyan ads, the way a woman has been objectified. I don't think that is needed. There are certain ads where neutrality could be portrayed in a different manner, which is not happening. It is evolving right now, but we still need that bigger.
So actually, let's talk about the banyan ad or maybe Lux Cozy or whichever ad, right? You're essentially sexualizing the category. You're saying that you wear this, you'll be so sexy that you'll be irresistible to women, right? That's a fundamental human truth. You want to be attractive to the opposite sex, right? So, is it wrong? In a way, you're objectifying the man and his figure on how he looks wearing a banyan or an underwear. If not, even better. The fact is, that's objectification of the opposite kind. What you're also showcasing is a woman looking at him lustily. We are looking at the lusty woman and saying we are objectifying her, but we are also objectifying the male body. So my question is, how do you decide what is objectification and what is not? Is there a framework we can work on?
I think it's a thin line. But as a writer again, when you're writing something, you know where does it stop and where does it get into that territory, right? I don't know if I'm swaying a little, but there were two films that I was a part of, and I remember I was very, very clear when they were writing something about a woman. I was very clear that this is not how it should be said, and it was all men. I was the only woman in the room, and I did have a problem with the way they were talking about it. And then I felt that this line is not required because it doesn't really change anything in the scene. And I put my point across. Took me a while in both the films, but I'm glad that they could see my point of view. And finally to see the film and to see that those two bits that I had a very, very strong opinion on, and both of them were about women and the way they were talking about women, which was not just not required, but also in a certain way, like not even objectifying, but just using the kind of language that I as a woman would be comfortable with. And both the times I put my foot down, and to see that it was gone was great.
Would you, can you share if you are comfortable with it?
Heartbreaking that it didn't come from them, but glad that they could understand and accept it.
Voice of change.
And I think that we do need more women writers for that change to happen, because as a man sometimes, I'm not really blaming them, but sometimes you might not have that lens or that POV which we would have as a woman. This is
easier to understand.
Yeah.
You know, I want to show one more ad if you can do that. Play that third one. Yeah, third, yeah.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
When will begin? Seagram's and Ghetto Blues Super Hits music CDs.
Is this stereotyping? Any?
It is, but it is stereotyping.
It is stereotyping.
You're seeing women in a certain light. You're somewhere saying that this is all how all wives are. They keep on blabbering. They keep going on and on and on. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I think
you're dumbing them down.
Yeah, you're dumbing them down. So many times it happens. You don't even know you're doing it, and you end up doing it, and that's.
Is that acceptable? As a brand custodian, should we be doing that? Okay. Poll to the room. Poll to the room. How many of you enjoyed that ad?
It's a long question.
Enjoyed
is a long question.
No, wait. Will you remember the brand? Right? How many of you thought that fundamentally the ad is wrong? Like, There's stereotyping, there is.
It's very qualitative.
So without even showing the other side, you have objectified it immediately. You have showed it, portrayed it in a very wrong way.
So in such a situation, what should a brand do?
Kosal, can I just comment?
Yeah, please.
I think we're making a little mistake. In this particular case, I think this is a parody. This is a comic situation, and there are a series of about 100 ads. So I don't think you should look at this so literally. I think, according to me, this whiskey brand has done an excellent job. Conceptualized a campaign which has been running for so many years. I think they're doing a very good job. I don't think this is to be taken literally.
So in fact, that's why I brought this ad, because we all love this brand. We all, I don't know about the brand, but we all love these series of ads. We all enjoy these ads. It's built on the back of stereotypes.
It's built on the back of humor.
Humor, correct. Built on the back of humor.
So I think that is what
Humor,
Sam is trying to say.
but humor on the back of stereotypes.
Humor is just a way of executing it, but still the...
But advertising works like this. That's what I also agree. So I don't think
To add a little spice to the narrative.
There's a
and you know what?
opinion here.
If you all are thinking, some of us are thinking that women are being dumped. I think men are being dumped actually. I looked at it the other way around. I said, God, men are like this, and men will be men as like that. Like they always stay like that.
Creatives have been funny,
Yeah.
have taken a mickey out of men too.
Yeah.
So I think to Sam's point, maybe not the best example.
No, so actually that's why I wanted to, the reason I brought this up is to also understand then as a brand, so as a brand, is there a framework we can apply? Because for the same ad, we've had so many people have so many opinions on this, right? So essentially, if brand manager A versus brand manager B is evaluating the same idea, is there a framework we can commonly apply? Like I think you had mentioned about the PNG third eye. So for all the others who are not in Sam's room, which is about 40 of you, so PNG has a framework where any ad goes through a third eye. Please add if I'm missing something. So when the script is logged or anything is logged, the brand looks at it from a third eye saying, is there stereotyping, is there gender neutral, there's a gender lens that's brought in. Similarly,
so just to add, and if
yeah,
you just stick to that point for a minute, if you still wanted to create a very humorous ad and as entertaining as this one, could you have done it by actually challenging the stereotype? And perhaps the question is that we've never asked that question before. Maybe we don't want to take away the humor.
Yeah.
We don't want to take away the
Maybe you
entertainment.
could have come up with an even funnier ad.
Yeah, but could we have done the same thing by challenging the stereotype rather than reinforcing it? But that question itself is not being asked. My problem is there, that you're not asking that question.
Yeah, and this third eye itself will change with each brand is what I'm saying. Like we want the gender piece to come everywhere, but some places they may not want it because they may want to talk about the stereotype, right? So that's my.
But it's also your segment to whom you're selling, right?
Exactly, that's what I was saying. That if the segment is the stereotypical segment that you want to reach out to, then you are not the TG to make this comment. And yes, there are these things of advertising. It is there, but I think that's what it is all about.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought this ad out, is because at least there's a question now to say, can I make it funny, but not be stereotype about it?
Yeah. But how can PGs be stereotypical on their own?
No. For example, she's talking about why ads are being made in a certain way because the decision maker for buying that product, that purchase decision is either being made by the man or the woman.
No,
and therefore your ad is being stereotypical about it.
Yeah, but Geena, I also feel as I think you mentioned, it has to be evolving, right? It can't be TG. So if a brand is thinking, this is what my TG wants, and this is what will sell best to them, how are you going to help that TG evolve into also experiencing aspirationally something different from what you're seeing today?
But that's
As
not the
Maybe by
necessary.
doing other activations in certain pockets where you think
Possibly.
that, yeah, that's
No,
what they do also.
no, but that's not necessarily the KRA of
Yeah,
the
that's
brand
not the
also,
idea of the
right?
brand.
That it's
Yeah.
purpose driven, and I know purpose is now a theme. But at the end of the day, they want market share. Sabun bechna hai unko. They don't want to change society, right?
No, I agree, but whatever they are, whatever they are portraying and however they are portraying it, I'm not saying, like we said, it always has to be a middle path and it always has to take profit and their, needs into account. But we can't say that 40 years ago, where women were into, you're looking at something is going to be the same today.
And if it is the best in fact, you go back to that Prestige ad, and the reason why I actually liked the newer version, and by the way I've seen it as well, is because the men have actually made the biryani and broth. There is a very big shift. In fact, that they have made it, and it shows men as cooks for that matter, which is really challenging the stereotype even more.
And all age groups also.
And all
It's
age
nice.
groups.
Of course, it's like it's a true evolution case, so Kosal's picked up a great evolution case for sure.
Anyone from the younger demographic who want to talk? Everyone is, yeah, please.
I get a point of view on this impetus to add. The series of ads that they have been making over years has been the same till today. So when we see the TG, a TG is very different. But advertising along with the scene make a bigger impact to the TG in the tier 3 cities, like you might be knowing. They capture the scene. For people like us, we just see the product. We are more, like enlightened with the product rather than the entire scene. Because I guess we are educated enough to grab what is right and what is wrong. And this conversation is that we are having right now is because of that. But when we move into this other segment, the lower segment of the society, it needs that evolving. I think that's the time when we need to keep the stereotypical, messaging on point for them to evolve.
Fair point. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Yes?
So, while, of course, when this particular film aired, I'm pretty sure that maybe a few of us thought, oh, it's not right, it's showing women in a bad.
That's the flip side.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
That's very, very interesting, but there's a subliminal thought there that drinking is also like that. It's injurious to health. So I'm sure there's a lot of research before they went ahead with it. So there is a subliminal link with what this is saying to the whole thought of drinking itself, which is not good, which is not good for family or your own health, but you're still doing it because men will be men. Somewhere that is very deep inside.
So in fact, I just picking on the same
Great point.
So you said as a brand you're probably delivering the wrong message, right? You're also probably delivering the right message to a major part of your TG, right? As a brand, where does your responsibility towards your brand start, stop, and the society start, stop? Is there a line you can draw? Or do you believe that it's all business, all society? I mean, it's easy for us to say, okay, nahi, we have to be equal for both, etc. But
see, unfortunately, the fact is wherever business comes in, you will always want to deliver that part of it. But somewhere down the line, it's also about how you're building the character of the brand. So along with business, if you are able to put the story or your narration in the right frame or talking the right, talking to that segment, but in the right positive frame of light, I think that's where your win-win is. And that's where a lot of brands like, for example, Ariel, Brill, all of these brands who are talking in the zone of, equality, that's where those conversations start. Though it might be also today, it is mostly in the metros, but those conversations lead into a lot which goes smaller metros. So your ads or your advertisements today then move into a lot of these influencers who start talking about, which reach out to a larger set of audience. So it's not just an ad today, it's content that is formed in any way through multiple influencers today across
We
the
are all
country.
broadcasters today, so whatever little impact or creative happens, it goes long
Yeah.
by.
Any examples of ads, campaigns that you worked on, but you did not believe in it, or you tried to push back but just had to give it, or you didn't push back, you said kya farak padta? Anyone?
I just shared my experience of.
So you won the battle. Any losers? No?
No, I talked to you about an
Yeah.
example that we were talking about, where we said, there was a car manufacturer
So that's
who said that the minute I put, a woman driver at the seat, the car is perceived to be a car made for women and to be driven by women, which of course that affects his volume and sales and market share. And so there's a dilemma about, how do I challenge the stereotype of putting a female driver there, but not challenging my sales. And for a long period of time, therefore, car manufacturers are still putting men at the wheel, right? Except for Thar, which has now come out with a lady driver there. So that's, like you said, evolving as well. But there are hard truths about auto manufacturers being putting men at the wheel for the longest time.
very true. Arvind, you wanted to say something?
So on the Imperial Brew ad, just imagine we create a version which has females enacting that particular scenario, or having a different scenario which is even more funnier. And if I title it as Women Will Be Women, will that make it stereotype?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm
the moderator.
What I'm saying.
On similar lines, say
Yeah,
for
if
example,
you're still saying women be women because they talk nonsense, they are constantly talking, then of course they'll be.
Because your men will be men.
If that's all I'm saying,
But in Canada and attitude.
But it won't
Men-
work for the brand, no? Because they are talking to men who have the skill. I don't think the campaign will fly from that perspective.
Yeah. And right now, men will be men is on the perspective of men are little careless and attitude. They are very casual.
But it
That's
is
the approach of
it's a hugely
communication.
problematic line.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like saying it's all okay because men will be men, which is exactly where the problem lies and we are all dealing with as a society. So that hopefully should change.
Yeah, so
Sort of acceptance, I feel.
I mean, there's
That's why there is a Kabir saying that it's made because men will be men, and that's why it should stop.
So I think
Kabir saying
I think the men will be men. First of all, I feel it's stereotypical, but there's no doubt about it. It's entertaining, and it hits the brain, right? It's a good ad, but a stereotypical ad doesn't always have to be a bad ad. But the only thing, and I may be nitpicking here, but the only thing that I feel is could be changed or could be made different is they always focus on the vices of men, They always focus on, men just giving the phone to someone else or just always on the bad things about men. Why
Drinking is bad, that's what I'm saying.
Drinking is bad for sure, but so many of
is it a lot
the
of people
whiskey
left
ads,
are drinking to be here?
so many of the whiskey ads show men, as like these heroes and gods and do-gooders and people like, if you drink this, you are a great person and all, right? And those ads also work. This line, the whole idea of, having humor is great, but couldn't they maybe show, say, a man, looking at a girl, wanting to impress her, doing something good to show like men will be men.
But
Like for example, if there is a girl somewhere who he wants to impress, maybe they show someone helping someone across the street or carrying extra bags just to impress that girl and show men.
They had a similar ad in this, na? So what they did, for all those who have not seen, there was a lady who was like a hot girl walking across the road. So this guy caught hold of an old lady and helped her cross the road to impress her. At the moment he reached the other side, there was another hot girl coming from this side, so he brought her back.
Yeah, that's what he helps her back against her will. She may not want to.
Yeah, I think the humor is in being bad, right? The humor is not in being good. Yeah, but Do you want to show the Heineken ad? Yeah, just play the Heineken ad. Heineken.
Lovely. A lot is being said without saying anything.
Fabulous.
Who made this?
Who's made this?
I don't know the agency, but every time the subject comes up, I just open this ad and show. A simple shift in narrative can change a lot.
And breaking the stereotypes of both.
Everything changes.
But have you noticed you go to a restaurant, typically when you get the alcohol menu, it is given to the man first. It is never given to me for whatever reason.
Including the check.
It's never given to us.
Yeah. So Neena, it's even the check. Check is also given to the man versus here also.
You wanted to play?
You're probably fine with it.
Let's play this here.
In fact, Neena, some restaurants,
Yeah, that's true.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
They don't write the price.
Write the price.
We thought we'll play ad. She wants to also show. It's not come? Okay, so clearly we haven't downloaded it now. But that said, yeah, so where were we? We were talking about good ads. Yeah, so
any thoughts on that ad?
It's lovely. Brilliant. Everyone must have loved it.
It's totally challenging the stereotypes and how.
That's what I call simple creative thinking without getting into the arguments.
But the question here is, the question to be asked here, and I'm just trying to be a devil's advocate, is that does this mean therefore that this beer brand is meant for women? And if that happens, then unka sale ka vaat lagega.
No, so iska follow-up was another case study that they created, which was amazing. I don't know, download kiya can it was interesting to show the case study as well. So these guys, Heineken is also sponsor of Being Equal there. So they sponsor the official sponsors of men and women both UEFA league matches. Right? It was generally observed by them when the women posts a comment on football, they were bashed. You don't have any right to talk about this, it's a main game and all that. And they created a case study. I don't have exact understanding of the other details right now. You would have seen it over here. It's crazy. They use social media to create traction on, they swap the players. So one of the key lead football player who is now a narrator, he was talking from the women's point of view, the female footballers talking from the male point of view. And when the research came out, people were in for a surprise.
No, interesting that you say this. We had the summit for digital content very recently, and there was a woman comedian, Slay, was it Slay?
Yeah.
What was it? The lady from the content.
Slay
Point. She was. They are a duo, girl boy duo who put up very comic content on YouTube. And she was talking about the fact that every time she made a comic point and a humorous point, she used to get bashed up.
Yeah.
And the fact that that comic point and that comic scene actually was written by her. But, Janta was bashing her thinking that it is a boy who's created. So, stereotyping to a different level, yeah.
The campaign was called Social Swap, so it's crazy campaign.
Okay, so while we get that, I have a quick question for the audience, okay? I want one of you to name your favorite ad or movie or movie. Anyone? Ron?
The Stay Free one. Stay Free, the recent 2 ads that they have done, where boys need to understand as well.
Okay.
So
You want? Okay. Anyone else? Any other? Fevicol? Okay.
This interesting case study.
82% of women in football have experienced discrimination, being judged for their gender instead of their performance. As the official sponsor for both the UEFA Champions League and the Women's UEFA Champions League, Heineken wanted to expose that gender bias and even the playing field. So, we engaged two legendary ex-players turned football commentators and had them comment during 5 UEFA Champions League matches. But there was something people didn't know. Introducing the social swap.
The tweets that you've seen on my timeline in the last few days relating to Champions League have come from Jill, and the tweets that you've seen on Jill's account have come from me.
Exposing the hypocrisy and showing gender prejudice to be just that.
Should probably concentrate on the Girls' League. Get back in the kitchen, babe.
And grabbing attention worldwide.
The sport that we all love but just want to talk about it, whether it's female, whether it's male.
You make a better Gary Neville than I do.
Interestingly, even ICC, if you have seen, they have changed batsman to batter. It's since 2021, and we are still battling about small little things.
I mean,
they literally shifted already.
Man of the match is player of the match.
Yes. See?
So,
if cricket as a religion is doing that, I think as an agency we have a little more responsibility to help shift the needle.
I think Arvind, you want to share.
In fact, Sudarshan, Heineken actually changed their positioning completely. If you go to see around, like say, 10 to 15 years ago, they had created the stereotypical ad, right?
Yes.
Where
So that's what
the wardrobe versus the fridge full of alcohol.
They evolved.
They evolved.
That's the idea, that's the beauty of a brand.
Another one.
This one? Equinox?
Yeah, it's me.
This is the entire view.
Yeah, just go on.
Oh, view full playlist.
Yeah.
This is more about whatever take on sharing the load.
Here's the wine, the name.
This one. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. So I wrote this jingle list so that
छोटा सा लम्हा ये मुझको सिखा गया सीखी है तुझसे ही नई नई सी लोरियां बंद रही कैसी ये तेरी मेरी ये मेरी तेरी डोरियां छोटा सा लम्हा ये मुझको सिखा गया हाँ मुझको सिखा गया
जरा सी हेल्प हो तो हम सब कुछ सीख ही लेते हैं ऑनलाइन इंश्योरेंस भी तो hdfclife.com पर कीजिए क्लिक टू इंश्योर
responsibilities of doing the changing the diaper, putting in bed, trying to learn, a man trying to learn how to hold a baby, and it's not just a mother's job.
So we have a similar sleep advertisement like
Does he have
this first one. So this is what we had created for Asian paints.
They say a kitchen can teach a boy many things. That a helping hand will go a long way. That everything and everyone needs their own space. He will fail, and he learned to rise. He learned that no work is beyond his ego. This is where he learned to be a better man. Sleek kitchens by Asian Paints. Modern kitchens
this
for
was a
modern
mix
men.
of convenience plus breaking the stereotype.
Okay, so for the audience again, ads bhul jao for now, movies batao. Any favorite movie? One person? Anyone? Someone who's not spoken? Jyoti, since you asked to come. Favorite movie? बोलना.
हम आपके हैं कौन?
Okay, हम आपके हैं कौन? Okay, so there is a test. Few of you must be aware, called a Bechdel test. Right? How many of you know about this? Apart from. Okay. So it's a simple test, okay? In your favorite movie, show, whatever. Question number 1, do you have more than 2 or more women in that show or movie? So that's 1.1. Otherwise, if there are no 2 women also, then it's 0 points. So 1 for Mark hai kaun. Do these women talk to each other? Chalo, 2 points. But you don't pass with 2 points. Third point, do the women talk about anything apart from other men in their life with each other? Do they? Now think about all your favorite movies, films, whatever. Ask yourself, do they pass this test? 99% of them won't. And that's something we've come to accept, right? You need at least 3 points. 2 women talking to each other in that entire 3 hours about something apart from other men. Okay, so audience quiz done. Okay, I think we are anyway almost running out of time. So one last question for all the panelists. There is one last ad, बहुत ads दिखा दिया. Just one nostalgia ad I want to show. Beautiful ad. But if you were to sit in a time machine, okay, go back and land in your hall or drawing room or whatever, where you see your young self sitting on a sofa, looking at this ad. What is the one thing you will tell yourself, knowing that you will enter the advertising industry 30 years later? Just show that Maggie ad, please. Any subconscious messaging we see here?
If you ask me about watching this ad when I was a kid, I could only visualize my mom making Maggie for me. It was very rare for my father to make my Maggie. So I could really connect with this. Because now the communication is evolving. I could expect my father or my husband or my son to be making Maggie for me.
So is it because the communication is evolving or society is evolving or?
Everything actually.
So what came first?
I think the society is evolving, the messaging is evolving, because those days, these sort of ads were made where women were shown mostly in the kitchen or washing clothes or washing utensils, because that's how we were grown in that environment. Now that women have come out and become like, they're opinionated, they are talking about it. And so the communication with the society is changing is what I feel. This is my opinion.
I think for me it would be about the kid, that the kid, him or her, making the Maggie itself is something, and that's what the kids now are also doing.
Yeah.
Asking ki, I want to make the Maggie by
No, but
myself.
this ad.
Yeah, in this ad also, instead of the child asking the mother, for me at this point it would be about the child wanting to make the Maggie more than asking me. And it could be anybody, it could be the mother, grandparents,
Anybody.
anyone.
Okay. Sudarshan, any thoughts? Abhiruchi, any thoughts?
So honestly, I don't think there's any problem with the ad. Honestly, if you change her clothes, if she's a modern woman, she could still make the Maggie. It's not like the woman should not enter the kitchen, hell breaks loose. It's not like, we're not saying that. It's okay, I could be working, I could go back home and still make spaghetti for her. And it's not like for a taboo, how is she getting to the kitchen? That's not the point. So I think, it could, maybe 20 years down the line, if I'm watching it in the 90s, maybe 20 years down the line, I might want to see the father cooking the Maggie and the woman serving it. So maybe to find a way to show both of them involved, in whether it's Maggie or something else. Again, the kids thing, I don't know if they are old enough to venture into that territory and cook and all that. But I guess that it could maybe I would want to see both husband and the wife, mother and father be a part of it, than just the mother being responsible.
Super. So husband and father, husband and wife be a part of it.
Yeah.
Kids, cook your food and shut up. So Pooja gave her POV on 90s में क्या होता था, and you have anything to say or do we go there? Okay, anyone else from the audience wants to say anything or we are ready to wrap? I am ready to wrap, there's more to come.
We just want to eat the Maggie.
Okay. Alright. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Mr. K. I just wanted to thank you so much, Kosal, everyone, here on the panel. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this afternoon, evening. I think if I can just ask one question to all of you, including you, since you have wheeled it away very interestingly being
I
a
volunteered.
and you are the creative head, so it'd be good to get your opinion. What is it that one thing each one of you can sort of pledge when you're making your next creative, when you're thinking of your next idea for any brand you're going to be talking? What is it that you will do as an individual to make that conscious shift on gender representation? One idea.
What is the one thing I'll do to make that conscious shift? Something new? I don't know. So I think broadly speaking, I'm saying this because I keep getting accused a lot of overthinking certain situations. I don't know if it's a bad thing to overthink certain situations, because I also feel that sometimes when I overthink certain situations, saying ki can it showcase something in the wrong way, I'm overthinking. Like for example, the Maggie ad. There's technically nothing wrong with the ad, but my antenna goes up saying, "Yaar, but ye to nahi dikhana."
So you'll be more conscious.
I'll be more conscious of showing equal representation both ways.
That's great. Next time, anyone in Kosal's team, please make sure when the discussion on briefing is happening, he remembers his pledge. Jolene.
So as a part, since we are a part of media as well, I think both in terms of, and a lot of things, not only just making of the ad, the content, influencers, all of that. So I think representation as whole is important. In fact, even targeting. So a lot of times, because we say business is so much, but it's important that we also target people who are, not only a part of decision making, but influencing and a lot of things. So I think targeting also could be a part of that.
Targeting. Thank you. Consciousness, targeting.
Reality check, getting out in the market and just see if this script, this idea, this creative is really required. Is it a true representation of what market is looking for? That is one lens I have been using, and I will
Market lens. Great, thank you.
I'll talk about the intent to the outcome basically. What is the intent behind creating that content and how are we serving the right messaging to the audience and what is the outcome out of it. So I will put more thought towards it so that the process of intent to outcome is seamless and it's neutral basically.
Fantastic. Process from intent to outcome and last but not least.
Just to be very mindful of writing something kind of sometimes at a very subconscious level what happens is you don't even realize. For the sake of humor, for example, like just to say that women are good drivers, I don't think in 2025 we should be harping on that sort of humor. To just be very, very mindful of what you're writing so that.
Fantastic.
Sorry, I want to change my answer. I got time to think, I was not prepared to think. Yeah, but I think what she said initially about thinking if this situation can be represented differently while still having the same impact. I think that for me is my biggest.
Wonderful. Do all of you agree, disagree? Show of hands.
Also, just to say that how things have evolved and we all have evolved. Going back to the much discussed Prestige ad. How many years ago was that?
1985.
40 years ago, a man could gift his wife the pressure cooker and she would feel happy about it. I don't know how many of us would like it if the husband comes home and says happy anniversary. Which is in a way saying you belong, go back to the kitchen Gary, which is not a good line. I would really love him the day he happens.
I think the pressure cooker will go up. So on that note, thank you everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. A fantastic conversation. As they say, it's not done till it's done. So each day counts and all of you have a big role to play. I request Geetanjali and Neena to come and we have a token of small appreciation for all of you here today.
And to your point about brands, I think purpose is now come into the radar. So when there is profit and purpose, you can very quickly slip into this whole challenging of stereotypes in the purpose bit.
Yeah, the moment brands start behaving inside out, things change. It's all about inside out.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for being the voice of change. These are just plates from the plated project. Hope you appreciate it. If they will feed the hungry people. No, literally, that is the plated project. Yeah.
Interesting conversation.
This is from our side.
Thank you very much.
Can we get a picture here, please? All
Yes.
of you. Come, Geetanjali.
Yes, come.
Sam, you be in the middle.
Where's Geetanjali?
Kavita, come. Take a vertical one also.
No, this is about Megha when we